70 of Not the Bottom Lime podcast. No cutting of fruit going on today. However, if you don't know, at least now you know, and I'd be incredibly concerned if you didn't and somehow stumbled upon to this program. But we are live. We are in color, and this is episode number 70 of the Bottom Line podcast. My name is Davidson Baker. I'm the host of this podcast. Thank you very much for joining me. Before I get into yes, sir, I'm gonna get into introducing you right now. But before we get into the nitty gritty of that, if you are watching this on YouTube later after the fact, go ahead and mash that subscribe, mash that like button. We would really appreciate it. If you like content like this, we're gonna be pumping out a lot more of it. I'm joined today by somebody that kind of we helped put this little thing together at the last moment. The knowledge of the sport is, fruit off the tree, and I have absolutely no quarrels and no issues letting people that want to get what they want to talk about off here, and that is where we go to my man Matt Ramey, coming to us live from Florida. Go ahead and introduce yourself. How's it going, my man?
Hi, everyone. I reached out to Dave. It was an interesting conversation. My brother was tweeting with him, and he's been following for a while. And then I kind of started DMing him because we have the mutual interest of the UFC. And we were kind of talking about how we could get a podcast going or an episode going together. And it just worked out that we could do a 250 recap. And I can't be more honored to be on here. I'm actually very thankful, to say the least. I actually had my own little podcast going, and then it didn't work out. But it's awesome that I get an opportunity to be a guest. I'm glad.
I appreciate it, man. And of course, this platform, while obviously, as I've told you, is nothing astronomical, but we do have right now 7 people in the chat room.
Sweet.
Hopefully going to grow it a little bit more as time goes by. But if you've got questions, if you've got comments, go ahead and tweet them back at me. We're going to be going down this lovely fight card right here.
It was a nice one.
And without further ado, we'll go ahead and get right into it. Obviously, the other topic is going to be about Conor McGregor. We'll kind of wait until the main card subsides till we get into the quote unquote retirement. I don't think 3-year-olds can ride on cakes like that.
I saw that. I don't think so either. I agree with you, man. I agree.
Regardless, Amanda Nunes defeats Felicia Spencer by unanimous decision, a pair of 50-44s and a 50-45 on the dock.
Dominated.
I'll say this to start. Luke Thomas said in his post-fight live chat, and I thought it was a pretty good analogy, you don't want to take away from Felicia necessarily, but if you say anything other than what I'm getting ready to say, he said, it's kind of almost taken away from Amanda in a way.
Yeah.
And that is, it almost looked like someone from the G League was trying to guard LeBron. Like, you know what I'm saying?
And, I agree with that, but I don't want to take away from Felicia's heart. I give Nunes all the credit in the world, but she, even after the fight, let her hold the belt. So you can see that she wants her to have recognition too. To go toe-to-toe with her for 5 rounds. She got dominated on the ground and in stand-up, and she beat her at her own game. But you can't be more proud of somebody for hanging in there. It was a little concerning that they didn't throw in the towel, in my opinion. But I know It's hard for your fighter, especially as a corner, to give in and let them give up when they're saying they can go. And it's hard for me to say that I respect it, It's hard to stay in the ring, especially with the best. And she's the GOAT. She is.
Unequivocally,
yes,
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. As we take a look at some of these numbers, I know that they are, at this point, at least, a little bit apropos after the fact. But 21-2 in the first round, 23-11 in the second round. Round 4 is where I thought she might have been able to get her out of there. Look at those 34 out of 59 total strikes, or 34 out of 59 significant strikes. This number right here represents the significant strikes. This number over here represents the total, and 34 of 35 of them coming in. Significant strikes are levied by if it is a strike that is given at distance that is not a jab.
Right.
And so Amanda was not throwing jabs. She was trying to get her out of there in that round 4. And then I think she kind of began to take a little bit of a step back approach in round 5. Yeah. Obviously the first thing to think about is who's next. That's what everyone wants to ask at the post-fight presser. That's what everyone wants to know. You got any ideas?
I saw Megan Anderson trying to make herself relevant, saying that she could come out and fight her. It's not even worth it, in my opinion. I mean,
Really?
it's one of two things. I think that we either wait for the Weili Zhang fight, because she said, I mean, especially with her baby coming on the way, she's going to take like a year off, it's looking like. And the other thing that would be interesting that I was potentially going to tweet out last night was a cross-promotional fight with Kayla Harrison, if they could make that deal happen. I think that'd be an interesting one. I really do. But I know that's hard to do nowadays.
And it's not going to happen with Dana.
No, it won't. No, absolutely not. You're right.
It won't happen with Dana in the fold, but the word cross promotion is the biggest curse word of all time over there.
Is.
Like they don't want to talk about it.
Nobody does.
Nope, not the UFC.
And Dana doesn't really have. I wouldn't say he has good relationships with many other promotions, to be honest.
He's been pretty respectful of he hasn't torn down Coker like he used to tear down Bjorn Rebney.
So Bellator, I mean, would say has the closest chance, but I doubt it.
Bjorn Rebney used to get it from him. Like when Bjorn Rebney was running Bellator, Dana used to put him on blast pretty hard. I know he's got respect for Cepho and those guys at PFL too. Nobody's really competition. The UFC is king, and I think that's incredibly evident here. Once all these other promoters do get back into doing what they need to do,
right?
It'll be interesting. He was asked by Brett Okamoto though after the fact about Kayla Harrison, and you could tell that he's intrigued by where her trajectory is going. I think it's going to take a couple years for that to happen.
Yeah, I agree, but I do think breaking it down to just UFC, I think that Weili Zhang's the most interesting fight, but it's going to take some time for that. I don't think
for Amanda.
Ready. Yeah, I mean, I do. I really do think so.
She's going to have to put on some serious weight to make that happen.
She is, but I think that's the only name. I mean, you can't do Shevchenko again.
I'd be all in favor for doing Shevchenko again. Cool with that? Yeah, but I'm in the minority though. Like a lot of people disagree with me. She'd have to go down to 135.
Yeah, and but then if she swoops that belt, then you're really talking about there's nobody left at that point.
Well, look, there's already nobody here.
I know.
Yeah. Look, so I was on a podcast yesterday with a couple of my friends over. Shout out No Filter MMA, good guys over there. And they were saying if the UFC decided to put together, which they're not going to do, but just for argument's sake, if they decided to put together an 8-woman tournament to decide the next challenge, that would take forever.
I'm down with that, though. I like the tournament idea. That's something I do really like. I do like.
I love it too. No doubt about it. But I think your brother just came in here and said, "Run it back with Valentina." That's what I'm talking about.
I mean,
I'm
not
in.
Sit here and say that I wouldn't watch that fight. I absolutely would watch that fight. But the thing is, after 2 of them, man, then you're looking at potentially a 4th if Shevchenko pulls it off. You know what I mean? So
yeah, no doubt about it. I think there's your name right there. I think Aldana is probably next.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting fight. I know that they were saying they brought up Duran to me again last night. But I mean, what would you bring that up for?
Yeah.
Aspen Lad's not ready.
No, and I have serious doubts in my head of her making 135 on the dot. I say Dulad and Aldana as the number 1 contender fight, while Amanda and Nina are getting ready to start motherhood and things like that. I think that would probably be the right thing to do.
If she could make the weight, man, the Colorado conditioning, most of the fighters out of Colorado are just they're set to go 5. They are. It just is the way it happens. Mm-hmm. And I think it would be that's an interesting number 1 contender fight. I'm down with that.
I think another phrase I'll take from a friend of mine. Shout out Mr. John Franklin, Sunday morning corner man, fight night picks contributor, connoisseur. He on a podcast we did way back in the day said some of these guys and girls, and Aspen Lad does fit this mold. Some of these guys / girls are goldfish, and by that what I mean is it doesn't matter what weight they have to make. They got to make 135, they're gonna have a hard time making it. They got to make 145, they're gonna have a hard time making it. People like Ray Borg come to mind. People
you're not wrong.
People like Johnny Hendricks come to mind. No matter what the weight is, they'll have trouble making it. And as far as Felicia is concerned, look, I said this to you last night. Like, I I talked to Felicia last summer in advance to her fight with Cyborg, and you could get the sense like right away, like there's a reason this girl, you know, does this and teaches algebra. Like she doesn't have to fight.
No,
She does it because she wants to, and that's incredibly evident when she went through that punch. Did you gain any respect for her in that sense, like watching her get
100%.
beaten like that?
Absolutely, man. I mean,
Yeah,
not many people can take punches, and she's definitely not a glass chin by any means. And to go 5 rounds with Cyborg, even, I mean, I kind of knew coming into it that honestly, I didn't think that she was making it 5 rounds with Nunes. I didn't think so. And to see her go 5, how can you not be respecting her for that?
yeah, no doubt about it. And like, it's just what do you do with Felicia at this point? It's hard to say. You've probably got to look at featherweights outside of the promotion at this point, and that's a little bit of a difficult thing to do. Like names like Norma Dumont and like who else? Like she already disposed of Zara Farron last year.
Yes, I agree.
I guess you could run back Megan Anderson again. Amanda's not going to fight Megan next.
No way.
I think Amanda's going to go back down to 135 next after
I would agree with you.
the fact. But
I mean,
there will be a little bit of time in between.
I'm trying to think of. I just don't know what you do with her. I mean, she's clearly not a stand-up fighter. So at this point, it's you're either going to break her down or you're going to build her up. And the way to build her up, I'm not saying give her a gimme fight, but you're going to have to give her someone that's not nearly as technical on the feet and somebody that she could take down, because Nunes, she struggled with. In a jiu-jitsu black belt, she didn't have a chance. She really didn't have a chance.
You know, she's so scrappy. I hate using that word, like scrappy, like gritty, yes. Bring your lunch pail every day, like type shit. My man Kairos MMA comments, if she goes to 135, give her Aldana. I think that's kind of the sentiment. Either Aride Aldana or Aspen Ladd, or like we said, put those two together, have them fight while Amanda is gone.
Why not?
And
it's looking like you got at least a year's time, so
no doubt about it. Come away with a number 1 contender in that way. You got any final thoughts before we head on to the bantamweight the bantamweight extravaganza we saw?
Wrapped it up.
So, okay.
This was insane, man.
Co-main event.
Hot division. As
we take that little bit of time to alternate into the new link. So, first of all, this was a massive fight for both of these guys as far as their trajectories of their careers, respectively.
I cannot believe that they were co-main.
Oh, over Sterling and Sandhagen? Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, yeah, really? Totally. I get
Sterling wrong. I mean, especially him and Sandhagen both.
Yeah, I totally get the quarrel about it being co-main, especially over Sterling and Sandhagen. I do understand where someone would have a problem with it, but what I would say back to that is we've seen them do this a million times.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
Like,
you're not wrong.
We've seen them do this a million times where you're like, why is this fight here on the bill? Why is this other one here? Why do we I'm trying to think of good examples, but there's literally so many that they're all flying through my head. You looking back at these stats, and stats don't tell the whole story, especially in our sport we know and love. But
yeah, for sure.
You know, Cody, I thought it was telling. Like when they flashed the first strike count across the screen,
right
at the very beginning, there was a what's the word I'm looking for? There was a decent level. There was a decent gap in between where Assunção and Garbrandt were in round 1 when it came to significant strikes. But Garbrandt, to me, was just cleaner. His combinations were more crisp. And obviously you're going to have that when you fight a guy like Rafael Assunção, who is more of a grappling-centric fighter.
Right.
Who's knocked people out, though. Don't get me wrong. Assunção's got hands.
Oh, he's got a good resume.
He's put people out before.
Yeah, he's got a good resume.
But the speed advantage was so distinct.
Yes. Oh, it's clear. And if you go back,
move to New Jersey is the key here for Cody. I'll let you expand.
If you go back to 207, when he fought Cruz, this fight was something that was probably the best example of how he could fight like that, like a champion. And I think after he won the belt, I think he humbled himself. I think it took him a while to humble himself. I think it might have taken that second and third loss on that 3-fight losing streak. But he's much quicker, and he can be very technical, but he's always been that emotional fighter, and I think Dillashaw is the one and the reason that made him that way. Just to bite the mouthpiece and swing, get scrappy, the word we don't like to use, and he's just not clean. He's not clean. But when he takes his time, and I think he's a very good counterpuncher. When he fights with his back against the cage rather than going toe-to-toe, you see a much better performance.
And at the end of the day, what helped him tremendously here is you see that little dip that he does like right before he connects on that overhand.
Yes.
That's all Mark Henry. That's all Mark Henry and Ricardo Almeida. Like, or maybe to a little bit less of an effect, Ricardo Almeida, right. just because of the aesthetics and the jiu-jitsu side of things. Your bro comes in and says, I like the slick back hair look, major dub. I gotta disagree vehemently. I thought he looked like a meth dealer.
I like the beard though.
I thought he looked like a meth dealer. Another comment here, Cairo says the UFC made him impatient and emotional. They fast-tracked him to the title way too fast. I agree. I think what caused that to be a shitstorm, though, was that he actually won it. Yeah. And after that, when he did grasp the title, I mean, what do you have right after that, TJ? What do you have in flux? You have an emotional roller coaster. I watched a little bit of that Tough season last night just because
it's a good one.
Whew, vitriol. Like you talk about anger, you talk about hostility. It was built up in there. Even the first fight between Seth Pachitsky and Gilbert Smith, those two dudes were, going at each other's necks as a result. There was just a lot of tension in there. And what comes with tension in this sport, when you have tension, you have pressure. And especially like Cairo said, that he was fast-tracked. He went from Augusto Mendez, I'm pretty sure, to Thomas Almeida, and then straight into the title shot. Yeah. And I think it's going to be good for him to kind of sit back and give it a couple of more fights.
Yes.
My next fight for him would be Marlon Moraes. What say you?
Marlon Moraes. It's an interesting one.
I would go with Marlon.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I think that he may struggle with the leg kick game. I mean, he's definitely going to have to train differently for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think I know I tweeted this last night and it kind of got a little hype to it, but I think him and O'Malley is a good one. I do.
I think it's too soon.
It's risky.
It's too soon.
Too soon for who? O'Malley?
No, I think it's too soon to make that fight.
The only reason
here's why. Okay. I think first of all, you don't want to kill off a contender. True. You don't want because True. Let's be damn honest here. Sean O'Malley, if he is not in the eyes of some as a budding contender right now, even not with a number next to his name on Saturday, what's today? Monday? He's gonna damn near have a number next to his name within the next 48 hours.
The crazy thing is, I heard that because of his contract, because I think he's got one fight left on it, he doesn't want to go for a ranked opponent because he wants to be able to renegotiate, which I think is a little. I mean, if you get ranked and you want to go back down to fight not a ranked opponent, I think that's
he might have no fights left on his contract because sure? I'm not sure. However, he might not. Here you could be right. I could be right. I have no base knowledge to where I can point at an example and say that. But what I am saying is in the contender series, most of these guys that come off the contender series sign 4-fight deals.
True.
Most of them, like a very, very large percentage of them. And he had Tyrion Ware co-main event right away. You want to talk about fast tracking someone, a co-main event and your UFC debut.
You're not wrong. I agree.
That's the way to do it. Carlos says Jimmy Rivera or Cody Stamen versus Garbrandt.
I think they're good matchups.
Stamen, we'll get to Stamen in a little bit. But
we're going to cover that too.
We don't need to put him back in the fryer against Marlon. That's that former champ. That's that former champ thing. I see where he's coming from.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Jimmy Rivera, I think it's a good one.
Yeah, I'd be down for Garbrandt and Rivera. There'd be some venom spit back and forth between those guys in that. But about O'Malley and Garbrandt, I think it's too early. That fight, do I need to see it before I die? Hell yes.
I think it's a good one. And he's throwing shade his way already. Once the KO, he tweeted immediately and put decent, period.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, he's definitely not saying that he's interested, but I think that he thinks he could take him. I really do.
Mm-hmm. I think this division right now it's as good. It's as good as any division in the sport.
My goodness. It's up there with the lightweight division.
Right. Lightweight and welterweight. I think lightweight and welterweight kind of sit on that pedestal. It's really yin and yang as far as which division people want to argue for or for which one's better. But I mean, at the end of the day, bantamweight's coming.
I do think, man, if they would have picked a fight of the night just to do it, I think it would have added some animosity because there were so many good fights, but it would have spiced up bantamweight because it would have pissed somebody off. I think it would be cool. I really do.
We move on to the third fight that most of us believe it could have been the co-main event. So many people were excited here for this matchup, and rightfully so. Sterling and Sandhagen was, I wouldn't say the dominant attraction of the week. I think that would obviously be taking it a step too far.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
Maybe not, to be honest.
Maybe not.
There's a lot of people behind that. It's a 50-50, I'd say. There's two sides.
I think the bantamweight kind of trio of fights on the main card is what people were really looking at as far as their interest being piqued. However, as we look at these stats, a whopping 3 combined significant strikes for these guys. It's that Matt Serra jiu-jitsu that was put on full display, and now I believe, unless something earth-shattering happens, I believe our friend Aljamain Sterling is going to get himself a title shot from this side. Is there any argument to that?
No, I don't think so at all. I think that's very clear. I think it could have been clear before this fight, to be honest with you. I do.
Totally.
Especially with Cejudo backing out of the division.
Yeah, I thought Jan and Sterling was the way to go for the vacant title right off the bat.
Man. I mean, no disrespect to Jose Aldo. I know he had a loss of featherweight and then a loss to bantamweight, but on a 2-fight losing streak, loss. Right. I think that's why they gave it to him. But because of the way that there was 2 L's in the record, I'm surprised they went with him. I mean, I get it. Especially with the name, I get it. But I think that's try to give him a gimme. I mean, if he loses, though, what do you do with him then? You know what I mean?
Right. No, I get that.
Is it tagging Aldo at that point, or are you going to try to go somewhere else with it? So, I don't know.
Totally. I think
going to come back for it. Doubt it.
I think Sterling at this point, hypothetically, how about this? Hypothetically, if Cejudo didn't vacate the title, would Sterling bend the knee? Sterling isn't bending the knee to anybody.
No, I don't think so either.
Aljo ain't bending the knee to anybody. No but I think maybe the context that he's asking that from is how would Sterling potentially do against Cejudo?
Yeah.
I think that's a tough fight for Aljamain, to be honest with you.
But
I think it's a tough fight for Henry too, but I think that there are more favorable matchups for Aljamain out there than a guy with the whereabouts and technical acumen and positional prowess that Henry Cejudo brings to the table.
I do think with the wrestling dominance, I mean, you saw when he fought Moraes Cejudo. I think that Aljamain definitely has a better fight than Moraes had. I mean, I'm not going to lie.
I was there.
Where that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I was there, and there was a level of energy in the building whenever Moraes began chopping those legs down right away.
Right.
He was chopping the legs. He was beating them up. He was really controlling everything for about the first 6 to 7 minutes, and then maybe it could have been a cardio thing. Cejudo really came off that stool a different fighter in round 2. However, I think it's got to be Sandhagen or Sterling and the winner of Jan and Aldo next. As
Yeah.
far as Sandhagen is concerned, I was seeing people call for Jimmy Rivera in that regard as well.
Yeah.
Give
Jimmy
him
Rivera's
anybody in
good
the
match.
top 10.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, man. Sandhagen's so
He's
chump. I mean, he didn't look good in that fight, but I mean, it might not have been the most favorable matchup. I mean,
he's new blood too in this division.
yeah,
Like Sandhagen hasn't fought the who's who yet. Now, is he talented enough to get those wins? Of course.
yeah, for sure.
I don't think his performance on Saturday is a proper representation of what he's actually capable of. But I do think that he is still a little bit green. He wowed me in his UFC debut back in 2018 when he stopped Austin Arnett with body shots.
Yep.
And he's really just impressed me ever since.
Yeah.
So I do think a top 10 guy's fair.
Yeah.
Right.
It's fitting. I agree. I couldn't agree more on that one.
So, do you think the loss was a fluke?
The Sandhagen loss?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know. Potentially could be. I mean, we're not going to see it again unless Sandhagen can get a couple wins to get back up there. And I mean, I don't think that he's a stranger to a title shot if Sterling and somehow comes across winning the belt. If that happens, I mean, there's a lot of ifs.
He's definitely got to get a back-to-back, at least back-to-back wins before he puts himself back in that.
But I don't think he'll have any problem doing it.
Pedro Munoz would be cool with me. I know Pedro's booked with Frankie, and hey, they were supposed to fight. Frankie and Sandhagen were supposed to fight.
Yeah, they were.
So Sandhagen's kind of owed that. I would be cool with the winner of that fight.
I would agree.
Fighting Corey Sandhagen. So I tweeted right before this next fight began. You know how good 170 is. When guys like Neil Magny and Anthony Rocco Martin are both unranked. He put on Facebook.
My bad.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
That's awesome, dude. That's a good one. That's a good one. I like it. I'm not gonna lie.
I think he could do worse. Like Corey Anderson. Corey Anderson's first nickname he ever had was Beastin 25-8. And I think that's like the greatest and worst nickname of all time at the same time.
Right.
Like the Beastin 25-8. Like,
yeah, right.
Dude. That doesn't even roll off the tongue.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't even sound good.
Bro, not at all. Especially with Bruce Buffer screaming it.
Yeah, right.
The round by round stats kind of tell the story here. It as far as significant strikes were concerned, you have the edge being given to Magny in all 3 rounds, but then right here, obviously being the key telling of the tale in round 3, 38-15 on significant strikes, landing at a higher clip. He did get taken down once in round 2, and I believe without looking, that one right there represents passes. Yep. And, I thought this fight was going to be a little bit better than it actually was.
Me too. And you could tell Magny was he was down on himself.
Yeah, especially after that last performance.
Yeah,
he looked incredible against Jing Liang. He looked as good as I've ever seen him look against Jing Liang.
His conditioning was on point. Mm-hmm. Not to say that it wasn't for this fight, but I mean,
it was. And his conditioning has to be on point. In retrospect, when you look at how he won this fight, going into round 3, it was pretty close. But regardless, there's not a whole lot of time that needs to be spent talking about that one. I'm trying to get this configuration. All right. So, all right. The reason why we move on rather quickly is because I do want to get into this. How do I put this? Sean O'Malley's a fucking problem. And,
he is a problem. No doubt about it.
There is no doubt about it anymore. There's only one person I see, and I'm not going to out them, on my Twitter that is still not buying in. To each his own. Get it. Everybody has their own opinion. Everybody sees these fights play out from their own vantage point. However, I mean, how can you not at least buy some stock Eddie Wineland is not Terrion Ware, with all respect to Terrion Ware. Eddie Wineland
no joke either.
Is not Andre Sukumta. Like, Eddie Wineland is as tough a customer without a number next to his name as you're going to get in this weight class.
I couldn't agree more on that either.
And like we said, this weight class, like, here's what I'll do. There's a website that kind of, what's the word here? There's a website that kind of ranks does their own rankings by division.
Yes.
I want to see. I want to see who else at bantamweight is 4-0. I'm sure that there are very few people.
No, I agree.
Okay, so who is 4-0? It says here at the top that there's only 2. If it will load. Come on, people. There we go. O'Malley, right there.
Yep.
O'Malley right there. That's right below Rob Font, and that's the fight that I want made next. I want Rob Font and Sean O'Malley next.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yes, sir. That's the fight I want next. O'Malley is there, and then I forgot about Barcelos.
I like Marlon.
I forgot about. Yeah, dude, Marlon Vera and Sean O'Malley has to happen too.
Marlon Vera's a problem.
Totally.
I actually was in the Q&A. They did like a limited Q&A. I'm sure you saw that. It was him, Uriah Hall, and Brian Ortega, and they were talking about how he was feeling about getting screwed against Song Yadong, and honestly, he has no hard feelings. I think that they probably did pay him accordingly to how that happened, but
especially if he reacted like that.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying, and especially with how people are acting now, what they're not getting paid. So, I think that he and O'Malley is a very interesting matchup. Maybe not next. I think Rob Font's probably a nice one, but right after, if that is the new deal signing or whatever, I think that's a good one for it. I really do. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, Stamen probably deserves, and like we said, we'll get into Stamen too. Yeah. Stamen probably deserves a guy ranked higher than him. Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do that, and here's why. That is not a good matchup for Sean.
Which one? Vera?
Stamen.
Oh, Stamen. No, definitely not.
It's not a great matchup for O'Malley.
Build. Simply just
because and he's athletic. He's one of the most athletic guys in that division. Cody Stamen is.
No, I couldn't agree more.
And wrestling being his forte before getting into MMA will definitely play a huge part in how that fight would ultimately play out.
He sort of reminds me of Chad Mendez a little bit.
That's a pretty, that's pretty good comparison. His striking, I don't think, his power, I don't think is there yet. His jab looked phenomenal.
Yes, it did.
Though. But like we said, we'll get into Stamen.
Yes, we will.
O'Malley. Okay, so Terrion Ware disposed of. Sukumta, thanks to a lapse in judgment that allowed him to win with damn near a broken ankle. Disposed
that was insane, man.
Yeah. That's what kind of put him on the map.
Yeah, for sure. How can it not?
I mean, he was put on the map technically with the Contender Series thing. Snoop Dogg, O'Malley!
Yeah, right.
O'Malley! But, there's going to be a hunger from the fans at this point to see Sean O'Malley compete. Yeah. And I think that is deserved and rightfully so.
And I think also I'm a strong believer in, I think his training with Tim Welch, especially ground game. And it's like his best friend, man. They live together, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
How much closer could you get? And I think that, I've been following them. I talked to them once through the Timbo Sugar Show when it first began. But Tim Welch is, he's a problem too for ground game. And I think that he's definitely taking O'Malley along. I really am.
Yeah.
And I saw his fight got canceled, and I was like depressed about it because I wanted to see Tim Welch fight again. I really did.
Yeah, and I think coaching is his calling.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Some of these guys, Joe Big Daddy Stevenson, I think James Krause is a hell of a coach. Not saying that.
Yeah.
Not saying that that's his calling over fighting, because he's damn good at fighting
he took
too.
That fight on late notice. Like
I was there.
His performance was insane. How many events have you been to? Like, do you know?
I've been to
watch or actually
3, like, or actually covering.
Yeah. Well, just total covering and just been to watch.
My first, like I told you, 247 was Jones and Reyes was my first credential.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
You couldn't ask for a better one, man.
I totaled my car 4 hours before the event. Even though that's another story. It was a bittersweet weekend for me.
Story later, yeah, right.
It was a bittersweet weekend for me because, like, yeah, the excitement was there. However, 4 hours before, yeah, I totaled my car and had to scramble to get a flight home. It sucked. But regardless, I was at 238 in person. I've been to multiple Bellator events.
I've never been to a Bellator event.
Bellator events are cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've covered 2 Bellator events and 1 UFC event, and I've been to 3 Bellator events. I was at Fedor and Mir.
That's a sweet one too.
When I lived up north before I came back.
Where you live now?
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City. And where were you when you were up north?
Ohio and Indiana before that.
Gotcha. Cool.
You're in Florida now. Where?
My girlfriend, but I'm originally Pennsylvania. That's where I'm from.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha. That's what I was gonna ask.
Yep.
But when it comes down to, we were talking about Krause. Like, there are some of these guys, and Tim Welch. There are some of these guys that are just so gifted at coaching and providing instruction.
Knowledge. Yes.
And, at the end of the day, dude, I can't get these buttons right.
It's all good.
At the end of the day, Welch can definitely hold his own, but man, he's got Sean O'Malley in a different headspace right now. You have any last thoughts on those guys?
No, I can't say any more than what we've said. And I just think that it's worth shouting him out because Tim Welch is definitely, I think, at some credit for that.
Yeah, man. I agree 200,000%. I think Welch deserves a lot of the credit. They live together. They smoke weed together.
Yeah, I think that's also why he's got a big market on him too.
Big time. In the featured prelim on ESPN, Alex Caceres defeated Chase Hooper by unanimous decision, a trio of scorecard sweeps, 30-20.
I bet on this one, man. Woo. Yikes.
Really? So were you?
Man, I had a 4-fight parlay. It was him. It was Hooper, Sterling, Nunez, and O'Malley. Hooper hurt me, man. Hooper hurt me. But then I had a follow-up just on Nunez because FanDuel was doing the plus 250 odds if you deposited money. So I was like, this is a gimme, man. I mean, Nunez.
They were doing a deal where it'd be plus 250 on whatever you bet on.
No, it was a $20 limit. They're not that dumb.
That, but are they out of their minds?
I know, it's free money, man. So I won back. I won $20 off it, so I can't be upset, even though I lost. So
yeah, no doubt about it. Here's what I want to bring up though, because I would hope that this doesn't include you, because these type of people suck. All right, right here. To all the clowns telling me how much I cost you. I care as little about your financial situation as you do about my health and well-being. I'm the one who has to fight my ass off and then limp to the airport the next day. I don't owe you shit, mate.
Yeah.
Have a good day. Well said.
How do you feel about that? What do you?
Well said.
I
Very well said.
And even though betting on him, I mean, to be completely honest, I think it just boiled down to inexperience versus experience. I don't think he's a chump by any means, and I think people are probably just writing him off. I think that's a dangerous thing to do. I think he's looking at being just as dangerous as the likes of Ryan Hall and Bryce Mitchell. I mean, I just think it's an experience. He's young, man. He's young. He's so young.
Yep. And Ryan Hall and Bryce Mitchell actually are, off the top of my head, there's 3 featherweights that are 4-0, are a shiny 4-0 in the UFC. Those are 2 of them.
Yeah, I know, and they're dangerous. So dangerous.
It's going to bother me that I can't remember the third one, but I don't really have a whole time to think about it. But regardless, as you can see, the strike count is extravagantly wide. There was little doubt from the beginning to end as far as this fight is concerned. That number 1 right there represents the knockdown that Caceres scored early on. I just think he wasn't ready. It's pretty much that simple.
I think it's true. And I think that Caceres knew that he was dangerous on the floor. I mean, he respected him. You could clearly tell he wasn't looking to go down there with him when he knocked him down.
No, I agree.
And I just think it would have been a dangerous move. And I think Caceres played it smart, man. And you got to respect him, no matter how impressed or not impressive the record looks. I mean, you got to give the man credit.
Yeah, and I thought the Crone Gracie approach he took, as far talking about Caceres, I thought the Crone Gracie approach was the right one. I thought that the execution was lacking, and there was definitely a lot of lessons learned by Caceres in that Crone Gracie fight. I am absolute. Let me just get one thing very straight before I get killed in one of these comment sections. I am not calling Chase Hooper Crone Gracie.
No,
I'm not doing that.
I'm not even thinking. I'm not even going to speculate that you are.
No, but Hooper is an issue as far as grappling is concerned because of how he's configured.
He's tall and lanky, man, and he's so flexible.
Absolutely. And, we saw something that impressed me in his debut was not that he was able to acquire the position against Daniel Tamer that he did, but that he was able to use it to his advantage like a veteran would. Like, you have him in that triangle and you pound with elbows from top position. That's a veteran move. Like, most guys would be complacent and just waiting on the triangle to kind of help tip over and maybe turn into an arm bar, something of that nature. But, at the end of the day, this was just somebody with a lot more experience. Caceres over third. One of the craziest stats ever, and I'm sure it's been thrown out all week long. Alex Caceres has more fights in the UFC, not just as a pro, in the UFC than Chase Hooper has years alive.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's facts, man.
It is. And I think the experience disparagement was very clear and evident.
The only thing that makes me a little nervous, I mean, that he's got that like cool, entertaining relationship with Ben Askren, being Funky's baby, whatever. It makes me nervous, man, because these fighters that are ground game, one discipline, you can tell if you get a stand-up fighter that can stuff your takedowns, I mean, who are you really going to take then? You know what I mean? And just to see how much he could be put down by somebody with a lot more experience, who does he get next? I mean, that's an interesting conversation. Where do you put him next?
Well, this is whenever I used to write matchmaking articles for whichever website I would, this would be what I would use as a basis, as we're just going back for no reason. But okay. All right. So Caceres, according to these guys, is the number 39 featherweight in the world.
Right. I mean, so what do you do now?
Yeah, dude. Holy hell. Giga Chikadze, 3-0. I didn't realize that. But with Caceres being like look at that record right there, 11-10. There aren't going to be a lot of guys that are 11-10. That's a fight I'd like to see. Skelly.
Yeah, Skelly's
I'd be cool with Skelly. I'd be cool with Julio Arce even. Some of these guys. Duho Choi.
Yeah, that's a good one. Duho Choi's a good one.
That's a really good fight. I'd be down for Duho Choi and Alex Caceres.
Aguilar is not a bad one either, to be honest.
He's booked for this weekend.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
It's at 155, though. I think that has to do with the short notice. There's so many reasons and things we can point to say, like, I can't wait for pandemic, quarantine, COVID-19, coronavirus, whatever you want to call it, to kind of subside, even though if we're not going to indulge into the pathology side of things today, but even though I don't think that's going to be over anytime soon,
I don't believe so.
Unfortunately, it's kind of the way that it's affecting. How do I say this? The way that it's affecting this sport in particular, outside of the obvious parameters, is
for sure.
guys are taking fights up a weight class because they're fighting on short notice.
And that's dangerous. It's dangerous for divisions, especially. because it can really mess with things. I mean, everyone's got a fighter's chance, so you never know. You know what I mean?
Nate Landwehr at 24. I love me some Nate Landwehr, but that's not right. All right. So not a whole lot to say here. Heinisch clubbing Mearshart with a right hand. This is my last recap of the night from Fansided. I love when I have recaps that just end up with a paragraph and I'm done. Those are fantastic. Stops him at 114 in round 1. 80% clip. And obviously a whole lot of those coming from the follow-ups on the ground. You have any thoughts on this one? Heinisch, that's a huge win for him.
Yeah, that's an enormous win. But I think Mearshart just didn't play to his advantage. He's one of those fighters, man. It's not a huge stand-up advantage for him. And if you can't get him on the ground, what are you going to do? And that's kind of what it was. Right. What are you going to do? Mm-hmm. If you're not dangerous, you don't have if you're not packing the punches that are going to do damage on the feet, if you cannot get him down, what are you going to do?
No, totally. And I think, how do I put this? I think that Mearshart was a live dog here. I thought that he potentially could have won this fight. Yeah, I was leaning towards picking him. I ended up picking Heinisch. However, it's a huge win for the former Factory X product. As we move on, we've kind of touched on Cody Stamen a little bit. This bantamweight kind of tilt has been incredibly apparent. This is about as close a fight you'll ever see that ended up with 3:30-27s on the scorecard. Yeah, I would say, because it wasn't close in nature, as you can obviously see the takedown disparity, the total strike, significant strike disparity. Something that we've already said earlier. Stamen's jab was really the difference maker in this one. But at the end of the day, we now have 4 bantamweights that will probably have numbers next to their name coming off shiny performances this weekend. What did you think about Cody Stamen?
I had a lot of nerves going into it because obviously, because of what's going on with him. Emotional fight, a lot of emotions go into it, and it's like they can either make you or break you, and it's a lot of a motivation. It's more of a motivational thing for him, you could tell. And I'm not going to lie, the post-fight press conference afterward, you could tell how much emotion he had going into that fight. And Joe Rogan was breaking down. Even he got a little choked up, and it was
Rogan was. Let me just say this: Rogan was fucking amazing in that interview.
Dude, I love
Rogan handled that interview brilliantly.
Yeah, he sure did, and I'm a huge fan of his. I watched Rogan podcast. Who doesn't?
How could you not?
Yeah,
I had the John Jones one from back in the day on the dock, as my lullaby last night. I'm trying to lay there and just calmly lay there, and you hear him start talking about cocaine and strippers and shit like that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But
getting into the cocaine talk. Did you see that? He's pretty
active.
What was that? Paulo Costa. He's pretty active on Twitter. He's coming to John Jones.
Oh, dude, I love Paulo Costa's on Twitter.
Yeah, he's active on there.
He's hilarious. He's king of bitches. Yeah. Not king of bitches. King of bitches.
Yeah, that's a Brazilian touch.
King of bitches.
Yeah, for sure.
That's Paulo for you.
Stamen, man, I was so happy for him, and I think it's only up from here. Hopefully.
56 total shots in round 2.
He wanted it. It's clear he wanted it.
Yeah, and I hate to continue to pound this narrative home, but the jab was the difference. Yes. I think there was a little bit of a speed advantage, a little bit of an athleticism advantage.
Yeah, Kelleher's definitely, if you're looking at the athleticism advantage, it goes Stamen for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Kelleher had some hype to him. He had some heat coming in here.
He was on a big run, and that was the third Kelleher fight I was assigned in a row. I did the Osborne one.
Dude, that one. Yeah. I was shocked. I didn't think that was happening. I had a lot of feelings behind O'Dell Osborne. I liked him a lot. I did.
Yeah, I was not incredibly shocked, but I wasn't expecting it. Yeah. When it went down, I wasn't necessarily expecting it, that's for sure. But as we kind of move on, middleweight, Mackie Bertolo gets rid of Charles Byrd, and the reason I'm bringing up Facebook is because Charles Byrd actually retired after this fight.
It was a nasty knockout. Whew.
Yeah, it was. And Charles, you know, I know a few of those guys over at Fortis. Fortis is a phenomenal camp. Shout out to, obviously, Darren Williams, who is the I think maybe even majority owner of Fortis MMA. There was that debate that used to be had whether he or Chris Paul was the best point guard in the NBA. I never really looked at it as much of a debate. However, Charles Byrd, I will kind of paraphrase this. Charles Byrd did retire after the fight was over. He went 1-3 in UFC competition, and I will say, quote, "I've never been a failed to fail or try. Never thought I'd say this at this moment, but I'm okay and accepting that sometimes things in life don't go as expected. I'm ready to explore that next chapter and path God has for me. I appreciate the love and support from everyone, friends and family through this journey I call my fight career. I know that goes on a little bit longer, but at the end, and he says tonight was his last fight. You have any thoughts on Bertolo or Byrd's retirement?
Honestly, it's not a surprise. I do think that Bertolo had a nice knockout, and I think it was a good stock fight for him, but I think that he's still got a lot more to prove. But I mean, if he, just like Dana always says, and if they're ready to retire, then retire. I think that's the smartest decision to make at that point. If you're mentally set to do that, then go for it.
I'm having a little bit of technical issues here. I can't. My headphones died.
You still sound
not good. We're 51 minutes in, and things are going fantastic. And now I can't hear a damn thing.
We'll get it figured out, hopefully.
Teaches me for not remembering to charge them before. But regardless, we will move on while I try to get this figured out. The featured prelim on the early portion, Alex Perez disposes of UCA Formiga with leg kicks at 4:06 of round number 1. Your thoughts on this matchup?
I picked Formiga going into it. I'm not gonna lie. I thought that it was a favorable matchup for him, and I was a little shocked. I thought he was going to be a lot more active, but it just didn't work out that way.
It sucks. I can't get audio out of here. What's going on? Damn. Well, regardless, as I continue to kind of move through the card, we have a private chat. Can you not hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Word. Yeah. No, my headphones died. So this is no, I can't hear you.
Okay, that's fine. All right.
But that's on my end.
Okay.
Regardless, though, it will pop up though on the podcast. This is different. I've never had this happen, but like it'll be all smooth sailing on the podcast though. Like you'll be able to hear both of us regardless. It's just I can hear no audio capability at the moment without my headphones. But regardless, we're almost ready to wrap things up anyway. I know we're gonna get to Conor, and that'll be after the fact. Devin Clark takes out Alonso Menifee after a 3-round decision. I think that Clark's game plan was tremendous. I thought Menifee kind of emptied the gas tank a little bit early. Blah, blah, blah. Herbert Burns gets rid of Evan Dunham early. You know, I think there's got to be a stat out there somewhere that signifies that. Yeah, Bryce Mitchell and Ryan Hall. I'd be down for either of those things.
You wanted them both. I think it's a good match.
Do you have any thoughts on this?
I think him calling it out, it was an impressive submission, and I think that absolutely Bryce Mitchell and Ryan Hall is a good call out for him. I think it's also going to be an interesting matchup